Hey folks, it's Rebecca here, and we're going to be kicking off our course tutorials with some basic to medium level processing in Lightroom. So we have a photo here. The bones are good, but the development really needs some work. And, primarily the photo is underexposed. There's some bluish tone to the photo. If we were to increase the overall exposure of the picture, however, the sky would kind of burn out. So we have to kind of engage in a bit of a tug of war to find out the best settings, with, trying not to compromise our photo as much as possible. So, so let's look at some of the situation here going on. We do have, now if we look at our histogram, and we have these things called clipping warnings. Let's zoom in here. So there's little triangles. You can kind of tell the little hot spots in the water in the background there. You can see like a little red warning. So not too bad. Our clouds are not in trouble, at least. And we have no plugged in shadows yet. Now we can see from our histogram that we don't have plugged in shadows. So the good news there is that we can reclaim some, make those shadows darker and just naturally build in some contrast that way. So not too bad. We're going to leave our color profile. We haven't really talked about that in class yet at Adobe Color, but Adobe tend to lay out the tools in the way that they think most people might use them. Which can be true, but if you're a landscape photographer, sometimes white balance is not the first thing that you're going to be thinking of. But here it is. Definitely the photo is on the blue side. So I could use the white eyedropper tool and kind of click around in some of the white areas. So I just clicked in the middle of my daughter's t-shirt, and not too bad. Photo warmed up, possibly at the expense of the sky though. Like the blues have gone like a little funky color, but not bad. The temperature sliders and the tint moved accordingly so that Lightroom said, okay, this is now a more neutral white. So that's all well and good. And then next comes the exposure slider. Let's crank that up. I'm going to go to plus 0.8. Let's turn on that sky clipping warning again. Still holding out in the water there. Now, we haven't clipped out our sky, but excuse me, it's certainly gone kind of pale. And, we'll have to address that a little bit later. Next up on the sliders is contrast. So this is a raw file. Raw files do not have that process contrast from our cameras. So time to add a little bit. We are just going to add this to taste. I am stopping at plus 50. That's kind of, if the face was primarily the focus here, that would be pretty aggressive, but kind of a landscape photo, not too bad. All right, next, highlights. So you want to reclaim some of that sky. We're going to go all the way to negative 100. And did we do a darn thing? Command Z, Command Shift Z, just a bit. So that's not going to be enough. We're going to have to add a graduated filter to kind of reclaim some of that. Shadows, I'm going to leave alone. My foreground is well enough lit now. Nothing is really plugged up in the foreground, so I don't need any kind of like fill light effects. The whites, let's hold on to the Option key on our Alt on a PC, drag to the right, and you can see what's actually burning out the further I go right. So I really don't want to burn out that sky, but I can increase my white slider to about plus 16, and again, those little hot reflections in the water, I'm going to live with that. If I was going to get this printed, that might be a bit of a challenge because that essentially paper white would show up there. But let's pretend we're not going to print this right now. And then holding on to Option, drag to the left. And you can see what starts to fill in. Shadows, we can get away with a bit more. Minus 50 here. Minus 50. Let's back up to minus 40. Now, you can tell, so looking at our histogram over here, you can tell we didn't used to have anything going on in the blacks. So anything we stretch our histogram out, we're reclaiming contrast, and it's basically cost us nothing. So already this picture is looking in much better shape. All right, so time to reclaim that sky. So with the -100 highlights, we did what we did. But now we're going to go to our graduated filter. Now your graduated filters, your adjustment brushes, they tend to have whatever last setting you used. So what was I here? -1 exposure. I'm going to go like -1 exposure and -50 for highlights. And I'm going to drag somewhere down here and voila. Now my son's head is definitely being affected. So I can use the brush tool to kind of erase that area. If I press the letter O, you get this mask preview of the areas affected. Let's try this range mask tool. Go to luminance and tell Lightroom, don't affect some of the darker tones. And so if I bring it to the range of 48 to 100, my son's head naturally, because there's darker tones there, gets exempted from this particular adjustment. Same with my daughter, actually, I guess. And then I can tweak that. And then I can go, well, that -1 sky, still, it's a little too strong. Like it's kind of going black. And highlights, bring back those cloud details. Okay, we'll say that's good. I can drag down my graduated filter. And we're going to do that. That ain't bad. So I could have done, again, clicked on, while I have this particular local adjustment active, I could go to the brush tool. And then while holding onto the, let's go back to the mask view here. Holding onto the option key, it temporarily turns into an eraser, and I can kind of erase some of the unwanted effect a little bit more if I wanted to. So the luminance mask is a bit of an advanced feature. So let's press O to get back out of there. Oh, we can see in the upper left corner, this is my handheld flash situation here. So I'm going to go R for crop, not C for crop, by the way, but R for crop. And I'm going to just crop that in, just get that out. And what else? So we have the people in the background here. So I know from experience that these three people that are sort of closest to the camera, not so good. Lightroom is probably going to fall down a bit. Like we could maybe fudge something with the what the hell is that tool called? Let's hover over it for a second to find out the name. Spot removal, I think. Yep, the spot removal brush. Maybe eventually with a bunch of passes over, we're going to get something maybe serviceable if nobody looks too closely. But some of the smaller areas over here, so let's engage our spot removal brush. This one person's head, it's like, all right, we can click on that one. And Lightroom picks a spot to paint over with texture. So that worked out all right. And let's try, we may have to do these people one at a time, or maybe all at once. Paint over and readjust and go meh. Does clone work better than heal? And let's paint over a new spot and fudge it and fudge it. Okay, and press letter Q. Not the greatest. Probably something that we want to, again, we're going to paint over. Sometimes you paint over mistakes just to kind of blend that stuff in. And so Lightroom is, again, picking places to cover the offending elements with. And you can always redefine that. Say, no, get it from over here instead, and so on, and to tweak it. And sometimes you can get some really great results. At the end of the day, though, if I was making a nice print of my photo, I would take this into Photoshop. Photoshop, it's the boss for deleting stuff. So, you know, that's when you take it to, like, you do everything you can for that Lightroom can do, and then you go, all right, you got to know when it's time for Photoshop. So let's do Command- to zoom out a little bit. Last thing I want to do is just kind of enrich some of the, is that a word? Enrich some of the blues. They're kind of looking a little washed out to me. So I want to increase the saturation. For that, I'm going into a panel we may not have discussed yet in class called HSL Color. And so we have a whole bunch of different colors that we can change the saturation of. So I could take the blue, drag it all the way to the left, and I effectively turn most of the blues in this photo, like say black and white. Or I could take the slider and go, all right, I have, done a big, kind of a bit of a plastic push on those blues. Just a little too much with that plus 100. The problem is there's a bit of aqua in here too, but I don't really know the proportions. So there's a little tool called, it doesn't really have a name, but it says you hover over it. It says adjust saturation by dragging in the photo. So I click on that. If I want to adjust the saturation now, I click somewhere in the sky and I drag up. And I can go, all right, so instead of plus 100 blue and then walking away, this turned into plus 56 blue and plus 22 aqua. So this funky tool allowed me to make the best of it that way. So, and let us zoom out again. Do a little command minus. And that's kind of where, I'm gonna reset this, sorry. Okay, so this is kind of our finished product. And if I just do show you where we started once upon a time. So again, this is the raw, unprocessed, dull, needs some work photo. And we brought it to this. So punchier, warmer, and yet we still haven't lost the blues. We've kept our sky and so on. So welcome to the sometimes involved world of post-processing your photos. So hope that was okay. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.